But today I'm going to be talking about the World Scientist Warning to Humanity, the second notice. And I'm happy to be here with the City Club of Corvallis, and I'm glad to see such a nice big crowd here. Today I'm going to cover 4 topics in my talk. The first one is going to be about the making of the Scientist Warning paper. Then I'm going to show you some of our environmental findings, followed by our suggestions to humanity. And finally, I'm going to give you an idea of the response to our paper. And then, after that's all over, we'll have the normal City Club discussion period. I normally don't write letters to humanity. I work as an ecologist, and I study the effects of predators like wolves on ecosystems. I work in Yellowstone and other places. Okay, part 1, the making of the Scientist Warning. It all started last February when I was feeling very concerned, worried about the state of the environment and the climate change. So I was just pondering things at that point. I'm especially concerned about trends that we're seeing in climate data. Extreme weather events, such as hurricanes and the destruction that they do. Extensive floodings, wildfire due to drought and extreme heat, wiping out entire communities, droughts causing severe problems for agriculture. These are all severe weather events that we're experiencing. It just seems to be getting much hotter. I don't know about you, but I just get the feeling that things are really warming up. For example, we can look at the summer minimum sea ice between 1984 on the left map and 2012 on the right map. So these were made by NASA spacecraft, these maps, and it shows about a 50% reduction in sea ice since 1984. This is a map made by the National Geographic Society, and the name of this map is If All the Ice Melted. So this is the worst case scenario if all the ice in the world melted, and this would be someday far into the future. We would see this map showing the coastline of the United States. Mar-a-Lago would be underwater. But that would take a long time. So if we take a closer look at Mar-a-Lago, it's only several feet above sea level today, and it's going to be at risk in the near future. So I want to start off my talk today with a 2-minute clip of a video by a 12-year-old girl. Her name is Severin Suzuki, and she gave this presentation in 1992 at the Rio Earth Summit. So I'm going to start this video clip here.
Hello, I'm Severin Suzuki, speaking for ECHO, the Environmental Children's Organization. We're a group of 12 and 13-year-olds trying to make a difference. We've raised all the money to come here ourselves, to come 5,000 miles to tell you adults you must change your ways. Coming up here today, I have no hidden agenda. I am fighting for my future. Losing my future is not like losing an election or a few points on the stock market. I am here to speak for all generations to come. I am here to speak on behalf of the starving children around the world whose cries go unheard. I am here to speak for the countless animals dying across this planet because they have nowhere left to go. I am afraid to breathe the air because I don't know what chemicals are in it. All this is happening before our eyes, and yet we act as if we have all the time we want and all the solutions. I'm only a child and I don't have all the solutions. But I want you to realize neither do you. You don't know how to bring back an animal now extinct, and you can't bring back the forest that once grew where there is now a desert. If you don't know how to fix it, please stop breaking it. In my anger, I am not blind, and in my fear, I am not afraid of telling the world how I feel. Do not forget why you are attending these conferences, who you're doing this for. We are your own children. You are deciding what kind of a world we are growing up in. Parents should be able to comfort their children by saying, everything's going to be all right. It's not the end of the world, and we're doing the best we can. But I don't think you can say that to us anymore. My dad always says, you are what you do, not what you say. Well, what you do makes me cry at night. You grown-ups say you love us, but I challenge you, please, make your actions reflect your words. Thank you.
Wasn't that special? Only 12 years old. Also in 1992 was the first World Scientist Warning to Humanity. This was sponsored by the Union of Concerned Scientists, where they had 1,700 scientists from around the world sign a letter showing their concern for the state of the environment and the climate. I'll read a couple of quotes from their letter. Human beings in the natural world are on a collision course. Human activities inflict harsh and often irreversible damage on the environment and on critical resources. Fundamental changes are urgent. If we are to avoid the collision our present course will bring about. So that's when the light bulb went off in my head. I realized it's been 25 years exactly since the first warning, the 1992 warning. I also realized that today we have global environmental data sets over time where I could look at changes since 1992. And I thought maybe I could write a letter to humanity showing the change and discussing the differences. So I want to acknowledge other people. I've not been working alone on this project. There's been 11 volunteers, 4 financial donors, and there are 7 co-authors from 5 different continents on the paper. Thank you for the help. Okay, part 2, our environmental findings. So what I'm simply going to do is show you the charts that we published in our letter. The first one has to do with good news regarding the ozone layer. Since 1992, ozone depleting chemicals, the emissions of those have decreased by 68%. So that's really quite an accomplishment. Although on February 6th of this year, the Washington Post published an article about new research that shows the ozone layer problems at low latitudes. Water is a scarce resource in many parts of the world, so we decided to plot freshwater resources per capita since '92, and these have decreased by 26%. This decrease is almost entirely due to a corresponding increase of the world population of humans. On April 21st, 2018, Cape Town, South Africa will be the first major city to run out of water. Their taps are expected to run dry. These images here show 2 of the reservoirs that supply drinking water to Cape Town. Just imagine if your taps are going to run dry this spring. Let's talk about marine fisheries. with the marine catch decreasing by 6% since 1992. Now, this decrease has happened at the same time as there's been a tremendous increase in fishing effort. So it's probable that we are now beyond peak fisheries in marine systems. The number of dead zones in the ocean have increased by 75% since 1992. Here you can see a map of the locations of those dead zones. Now, dead zones are mostly created by agricultural runoff, especially the chemicals that are used on crops like nitrogen fertilizers. Total forest in the world has decreased by 2.8% since 1992. That's about 129 million hectares, or equivalent to the size of the country of South Africa. Now, deforestation is mainly caused by clearing for commercial cropping, cattle ranching, palm oil production, subsistence farming, and logging for timber. The abundance of vertebrate wildlife decreased by 29% since 1992. There are several thousand species of vertebrate wildlife that are currently threatened with extinction. Here in this slide, I show an example of 6 of those species that are threatened with extinction. Greenhouse gas emissions have increased 62% over the last 25 years. So this is a fairly steep increase, but what's troubling is a very similar matching increase with global surface temperature change. Human population has increased by 35% over the last 25 years. This is about 2 billion more humans than we had in 1992. This equates to adding 9,400 humans to the planet every hour. That is births minus deaths, equivalent to adding about 82 million humans to the planet every year. Ruminant livestock increased by 20% since 1992, or that equates to about 45 more ruminant livestock on the planet every hour, 4,500 additional livestock. And again, that's births minus deaths. And that equates to about 40 million ruminants added to the planet every year. Let's take a look at a longer time frame from the year 1 AD to the year 2013. So at 1 AD, we had about 250 million people on the planet, as you can see on this yellow dot in the red line, going to about 1 billion by 1804. Then the curve turns upwards sharply to 2 billion in 27, 3 billion in 59, and 4 billion in 74, 5 in 87, 6 in 99, and by 2013, we're at 7 billion people. Today, in 2018, we're currently about 7.4 billion, and we're on our way to 8 to 9 billion people. Let's look at a simple pie chart showing land mammals by body weight. As you can see here, humans and their livestock dominate the pie chart in terms of biomass of mammals, where wild mammals are just a small sliver of the pie. Now, if we were to look 2,000 years ago, this would be very different, where the wild mammals would dominate the pie chart and humans and livestock would be a small percentage. Well, our article was published on November 13 in 2017, and it made the cover of BioScience magazine, which was designed by OSU's artist Oliver Day. Part 3 are suggestions to humanity. Now these suggestions are just examples that we were thinking about, and they're mostly directed towards the world's government. The first group is about preserving nature. 1, creating nature reserves for the world's terrestrial, marine, and freshwater habitats. 2, halting the conversion of forest, grasslands, and other native habitats. 3, restoring native plant communities, particularly forests. 4, curbing the poaching crisis and exploitation and trade of threatened species. And 5, rewilding regions with native species, especially apex predators, to restore ecological processes. This reminds me of the work that I've been conducting in Yellowstone National Park with the rewilding of wolves in Yellowstone. Wolves were extirpated from the park in 1926. They were gone for 70 years and were reintroduced in 1995. So what I've been studying is the way that the wolves affect their primary prey, the elk, and then how elk affect the plants. So what we're finding is, indirectly, wolves help plants. And I'll show you some evidence of that. Here's a picture of Soda Butte Creek in Yellowstone before wolves in 1991. Just notice the streamside vegetation, or lack of it, in this 91 photo. And here's a recent 2017 photo. See how the cottonwoods growing along the bank are starting to flourish. So this is a very positive story about rewilding. The next group I'm going to talk about is food. Food has a major impact and effect on climate and the environmental variables. Number 6, reducing food waste through education and better infrastructure. Approximately 1/3 of all food produced in the world is wasted. 7, promoting dietary shifts towards mostly plant-based diets. If we eat lower on the food chain, we'll have lessen our impact on climate change and various environmental factors. The next group has to do with fertility and education. 8, reducing fertility rates through voluntary family planning. 9, increasing outdoor nature education for children. My next group is all about the economy. 10, divesting of monetary investments to encourage positive environmental change. 11, promoting renewable energy sources such as solar and wind power, while phasing out subsidies to fossil fuel companies. And 12, revising our economy to take into account the real costs which consumption patterns impose on our environment. The last category is the human population size, where we have number 13, estimating a scientifically defensible, sustainable human population size for the long term, while rallying nations to support that vital goal. Part 4. Now I'm going to describe some of the responses we received since we published the paper. We invited other scientists to sign the paper after we had it written up and before we published it. So I sent the paper to 40 different scientists that I know, and we also sent out one tweet. Within one day, we had 1,200 scientists sign the paper. That was quite surprising. Within 2 days, we had 2,400 scientists sign the paper. By the time we went to publication, 15,364 scientists signed our paper. They are from 184 different countries. Since we published, 5,000 more scientists signed our paper. So now we're at about 20,000 scientists endorsing this letter to humanity. Of those 20,000, 180 of them are from Oregon State University. This map shows where those scientists are residing that signed our paper. The highest ranking would be United States, followed by Brazil, Australia, and some of the European countries, but also South Africa and India had a lot of scientists signing our paper. So every country that has a color had scientists sign up. On our website, we have a PDF of all of the signatures, and it takes up 600 pages. So, since we published the paper, I've received hundreds of emails from people, and the vast majority are showing a lot of concern and a lot of support for our letter. A few, not so much. I've received invitations to meetings and presentations like this one today with the City Club. Our paper has been discussed on the floor of the Israeli Parliament and discussed on the floor of the British Columbia Legislature. I've received books, poetry, art, and even a song titled "Goodbye, Beautiful World." I've received many ideas for saving the world, and I must say it, quite a few of them are quite remarkable. I've received many offers to help. Some people even sent money. And there's a group of European scientists that wrote a response to our paper, and it's written in a satirical style. Maybe I'll share a few quotes from their satire. So, Chaperon and all, a group of Europeans, published this. It's titled "A Final Warning to Planet Earth." Now remember, this is satire. We want more stuff. There is no longer a need to preserve filthy and dangerous wildlife. Growth must indefinitely prevail unrestricted. We seek a second planet. So here they're talking about getting on a spaceship and traveling to another planet. So we wrote a response to their satirical piece. We titled it "Saving the World with Satire." Here I'll just give you one quote from our responding paper. "Understanding Earth's new and potentially destructive climate, we admit to having booked our seats to the second planet, along with Chaperon et al. Our paper was covered by more than 300 news outlets around the world, such as CNN, the Washington Post, and the Boston Globe. It's been tweeted more than 8,000 times, reaching up to 14 million Twitter followers. There are more than 100 YouTube videos online about our Scientist Warning paper. There's a company, Altmetric, that ranks scientific papers based on their impact with social media and mass media. We are currently ranked number 6 out of 8.9 million research outputs. The Pope got involved a little bit. The Catholic Register published an article about the Scientist Warning and concluded that the scientists and the Pope are in sync in terms of global warnings relating to the environment and climate change. Newsomatic, it's a children's magazine. They published an article about the scientist warning. And then on their cover, they show a letter to the world with it. The return address shows 15,364 scientists from 184 countries. We have now formed an alliance of world scientists to do follow-up work on global environmental and climate change issues. We currently have around 12,000 scientists signed up with the alliance. One project of the alliance is to translate our paper into other languages, and we've currently completed translating our letter into 17 different languages. Here I want to give you an example of just one of the emails that I've received since we published. This is from an individual. He says, "Allow me to introduce myself as an ordinary fellow human. I just read the second notice and would like to share that I write this note to you from my 9-to-5 desk job, with tears rolling down my face as I break down, overwhelmed with helplessness. There are billions of people like me who are in support of your warning. We are ordinary individuals, part of a vast, vast majority. Most of us belong to a group that may never hold a powerful position in politics or business, but we are here, alive, aware, and awake." I'm going to end today by showing a 2-minute video clip of a presentation given by the granddaughter of Dr. James Hansen, a climate scientist, and this was recorded at the November 2017 United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP23.
"25 years after the first Rio Earth Summit, the words 12-year-old Severin Suzuki spoke should still ring in the ears of government officials. But do our governments really hear about her concerns? Or do they care more about deals with the fossil fuel industry? Fears expressed by this young girl are coming true. Species are disappearing. Coral reefs are bleaching. Their life is disappearing. Droughts become stronger and fires are raging, driving refugees and increasing conflict among people. Storms become stronger and floods more devastating. Ice sheets are melting. We debate whether we will lose coastal cities in 150 years, 100 years, or 50 years. And adults wonder why young people have increased anxiety today." Severin spoke directly to the delegates at Rio. A few of them sat up and took notice, but how long did it affect their conscience? More important, did it affect their government's actions? No. If I spoke before the delegates today, I would feel the same fear and anger that she expressed, and more, because I see the hypocrisy of our governments, of our leaders. In truth, for all their posturing, they have accomplished painfully little to avert the onset of catastrophic climate change. Money has been shown to be more important than their children's future. I am afraid and I am angry at the problems that greedy and foolish adults have created. But just as Severin said, in my anger, I am not blind. And in my fear, I am not afraid to tell them all, diplomats, negotiators, leaders of government, banks, and businesses, how I feel. Adults, you say you love us, but I challenge you to make your actions reflect your words, without hesitation.
So those two video presentations were filmed 25 years apart, one in '92 and the other in 2017. But they're discussing similar problems of the business as usual. Now I ask, are we going to be changing in time? But on a lighter note, the research scientists conclude we are destroying the earth. And the government politicians respond by asking, could you kindly rephrase that in equivocal, inaccurate, vague, self-serving, and roundabout terms that we can all understand? For more information, you can visit our website, scientistwarning.forestry.oregonstate.edu, and we're still accepting signatures on the website. Thank you for your attention.